The following is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised.
Dude, the amount of times I've had guests text me after the podcast
Yeah.
cursing me out, telling me that they're going to gain 10 pounds after
Hell
my
yeah.
podcast. Because I tell them to talk about all this food.
No,
I'm
man, I
some
love it,
freaking
dude.
voyeuristic cuck that's just jerking it to you talking about cereal. What's up, Bessies? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Childlike and Best with Mike Valdes. Guess what? I am still the second part of that title. I hope you're having a great week this week. If you want to support me in any way, please go to my website, thekidfromup.com. You will find links to my comedy, my album. You'll also find my Instagram, my TikTok, all kinds of stuff, as well as my merch, which could be found at childlikewonder.co. And another thing that we're doing, it's called holler.baby/Mike Valdes, where you want me to promote your business, you want me to promote you, or just give you a shout out, or maybe you have a birthday coming up, or if you just have a topic, maybe something from your childhood that you want me to talk about with my guest, go to hollerbaby.com/Mike Valdes and purchase a ad, basically. And I will read whatever it is that you would like for me to read, given certain details, of course. But now that we have that out of the way, I'm so excited for this week's episode. Today's episode is Spencer Bland. Spencer is such a funny stand-up comedian, and I was so excited to talk to him because we relate in so many ways. We both grew up Christian, and also we grew up Tooth and Nail Records kids, so we talk a lot about music as well as comedy and things like that. It's a very fun, a very funny episode, and I really think that you guys are going to enjoy it. So please enjoy my conversation with Spencer Bland. We were talking about Pokemon cards before,
Yes.
and it's so funny because I feel like you would relate to this, but
Yeah.
growing up, Pokemon was very frowned upon in my house. Like, it was
Yeah.
very, like, demonic and, things like that.
Tight.
Yeah. So,
I take it you were raised very Christian too.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah. And
sorry, I was gonna say real quick. Here's what's wild. I wasn't actually raised that Christian. My dumbass chose to be super Christian in high school.
Yeah.
My parents were like culturally religious. They're like, we live in the South, and they're like, we go to church. And like now, which is funny because now my mom is like obsessed with God. But yeah, growing up, they were like, my dad used to call me God Boy as a joke.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
So so Pokemon cards were considered of the devil in your house.
They were considered of the devil. And I remember, well, it's funny because like my parents were, considering how conservative they were on the surface, they were also pretty laid back.
Yeah.
So because they did let me play the Pokemon game, they would let me watch the show, like it wasn't like, that's demonic, you shouldn't do that. It wasn't until I bought Pokemon cards and I got a holographic abracadabra that my parents were like, hey, this is probably not right for you to have.
Like, hold on, this one's doing magic.
Yeah. And so I remember, I'll never forget it, dude. I tore up all my Pokemon cards because I felt so guilty.
Yeah,
I tore up
dude.
all my Pokemon cards. I put them in the toilet and I pooped on them.
Dude, LOL. Dude, the dumb shit we did as like Christian kids. I remember one time I had sex with the girl that I was dating in high school and I felt bad about it, so I punched myself in the balls afterwards.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh, it's
I went in the bathroom and I was like, "Damn it, Spencer, you sinned!" And I fucking speed bagged my nuts.
Not only do I have to suffer, but the potential kid that my girlfriend might have needs to suffer as well. So I'm gonna punch myself in the dick,
dude. So stupid, man. Just God tier level stupidity.
Yeah. Things that a God that you believe in wouldn't want you to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I still believe in God. I bet if God was up there and he was like, "What the fuck is this kid doing?"
It's true. Like, I mean, you don't have to hurt yourself. It's like you don't have to poop on cards.
What's probably funny is you probably pooped on some really valuable ones too. I bet because I'm 33. How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay, so we were getting like the OG run, dude.
Exactly. Yeah.
part of what reawakened my like excitement into Pokemon was I found all my old cards.
Okay.
And like none of them are like super duper worth. There's a couple that are worth like if I get them graded, they might be worth like a few $100 because I'm sure I traded away or got rid of all my like super nice, Charizards and stuff. But like seeing those old cards, I was like, man, I really like. Dude, I used to make my mom wake up early on Saturdays and take me. There's a bookstore in Raleigh called Books a Million.
Okay.
And she would take me to Books a Million. And I would play Pokemon with the other kids.
Wow.
I was obsessed with it, dude. Yeah. And I found all those cards and I was like, man, I miss doing this. And I just bought that and I don't know if it's my nephew-in-law. So like my wife's nephew, he's like 5 and he started getting into the cards and he gave me one. The new ones suck, dude. The design it's like too much. They're doing I prefer like the old school style, but
look at us old men talking about like when I was growing up, it was 100. It was 150, and you can wrap all of them.
The kids these days, and they're dang gay Pokemon cards.
What kind of a kid would you say that you were growing up? Like, who did you sit with at the lunch table? Like that kind of thing.
Ooh, that's fun because it's like this is such a good question because it's like there's the real answer and then the answer that you want to be perceived as.
Sure.
Like in my head, I was just like fun, quirky, hilarious kid, who definitely had some insecurities, but was well liked. But in reality, like I was the funny, annoying fat friend.
Yeah.
That's just how I was, man. And it's like I was, I'm trying to think like all the way back to middle school, like all my friends were like my best friends in each stage of schooling was like the hot dude, or like one of the hot people. And I was like right on the edge of like the popular kids. But I don't know if this is a good thing. I think it is, but I went to a very small, strict private school because I had too much fun in middle school. I was a skater punk kid. I hung out with like, kind of the wrong crowd, but not really. It was just like one bad kid. But I was very easily influenced by someone who I thought was cool. So and this was also during the Jackass generation. So me and my friends were recreating Jackass stunts, and I like broke a car's window on accident one time. So my dad, and I got actually I have a joke with this, but I got white boy arrested.
Right.
That joke is white boy arrested is when you do something illegal, the cops show up and they don't kill you. And I was like, yeah, in the early 2000s, the cops were just Uber. You do something wrong, they show up and just take you home.
Funny.
Yeah,
that's very funny.
But yeah, I was just like I was friends with the popular kids, but I would never. It was always in a group that I would hang out with them in. I was never hanging out with those dudes one-on-one. And then in high school, my graduating class was 57 people, so like there were definitely cliques, but it was real small.
Right.
And I did everything. I played football. I was also like the lead in a bunch of plays, so I was a theater kid. I was in a band, so like I was like literally.
I relate to you so much. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I did too much shit because I'm so afraid of being left out that I was like, I need to do everything so everyone likes me.
Yeah. And that's like such a performer gene, isn't it? Where it's just
very
like
much so, dude.
You just want everybody to like you, so you do things that you're gonna hate just because you're like, well, Brandon's doing this, so I guess I should.
Dude, so much, man, so much.
Yeah, and truly, like the place where I was like the most happy were at like the plays and like in like chorus and things
dude,
like that.
So I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5", and I fluctuated weight a lot in high school, but I was always on the bigger side.
Yeah.
And I hated football. Nothing made me more boring than organized sports, which is wild because I don't really like football now because I played it growing up, but I love hockey. I love soccer, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I would find any reason to skip football practice. And my coach hated it because he was like, he saw this untapped talent in this giant kid, But I was like, I just want to go home and play video games or hang out with my friends or do like theater. Never missed a rehearsal.
Yeah.
But fucking football practice, I was like, I'm sick. I remember one time I lied and said my stepbrother went to the hospital. And then literally the next day, my stepbrother was in the car to pick me up from football practice. And my coach was like, that kid's fucking fine. And I was like, you got me. Like,
dude, I remember. I remember one time it wasn't a football practice. I think it was cross country. I was in cross country in high school.
Oh,
and
man.
I skipped the class. I skipped the practice.
Hell
and
yeah.
one of the coaches saw me on property.
Yeah, dude.
Like in the second floor. and I started running away. And she ran after me, dude.
Dude, that's funny. That's
she ran
great.
after me and slammed me into the locker.
Holy
and
shit!
I went to a Christian school, so
same.
And I was just like, and she was like, "What does Philippians 4:13 say? What does Philippians 4:13 say?"
LOL, dude.
Yeah, which to anyone who doesn't
quoting
know,
the Bible.
Yeah, anybody who doesn't know, it's I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, that's like all over every gymnasium. And
she was using that as a justification to abuse you. Christ allows me to slam you into these lockers, Mike.
Yeah. And so, and she was. And she was like, and she was like, so go to practice. And I was like, I don't even have my shorts.
Run in jeans.
And
all things are possible through Christ.
Yeah, everything is possible through Christ. Exactly. Yeah, dude.
That's funny.
What a wild time to be alive. Oh my gosh.
Truly, dude.
Yeah. Well, you also have to understand that like it was a different time. It was a Christian school, and it was mostly minorities. Like it
wow, okay.
Like I could count the white people that I knew in one hand my entire life growing up.
Oh, dude, total opposite from my situation.
Yeah,
I'm jealous actually.
So I'm saying, so what I mean is like somebody slamming me against the locker is completely normal. Like that is not.
yeah.
Like to me, I don't see that as abuse. I see that as like she's really passionate about it.
Yeah. She just wants me to run.
Yeah, she just wants me to run. And
that's funny, man.
How passionate she is. Something I specifically wanted to talk to you about because I've listened to your comedy. I've listened to you on podcasts and things like
man.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan. And
cool.
And so
that makes one of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And so one of the things that I truly loved is that you were kind of a tooth and nail kid, you know?
Dude, big time. Yeah. This you see Me Without You poster right behind me right here.
Yeah. And so I wanted to talk about tooth and nail kind of stuff because like it's really weird because this is also another thing too about minorities that I never realized. Minorities, especially Latinos, really like emo music. I did know why. But they do.
Interesting. Like, there's a kid, I haven't seen him in a minute, so I don't know if he's still a comic anymore, but there's a kid who was coming to open mics for a little bit. This homie named Alex. I genuinely can't remember his last name, so sorry if he listens to this. But he was this he's Mexican. That's not me being racist. I know he was Mexican. And he was like, dude, one of the most emo kids I've ever met in my life, which is cool, but very rare to see. He's younger. He's probably like 24, 25. Very rare to see a current emo kid, you know?
Yeah, very true. Yeah. That is very true. I mean, it's weird too, because during that time, during like the 2003, 2008 era of emo music, when it was popular in the mainstream for a while, the golden age. Yeah. It was weird because there was a through line where there were so many like in it not of it Christian bands, you know what I mean?
100%. I can think of one specifically. I don't know if you ever, they weren't tooth and nail, but they were tooth and nail adjacent. I think they were on Victory maybe for a little bit, but they were a band called He Is Legend.
Oh yeah.
I loved them.
Great. They were on tooth and nail.
Yeah, they were actually, I think they were Solid State, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were
it's the same company. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. But yeah, so Skylar, the lead singer, they still live in North Carolina, and like I'll randomly see him at comedy shows every now and then. He has no idea who I am. I obviously know who he is. Yeah. But they were so obviously not Christian, but they were on a Christian label. And people were like, oh yeah, this Christian band. But then I would see them like just blasted drunk at shows.
Oh yeah.
And like, they're like, they would cuss on stage, which is fine. But when you're like 14, you're like, oh, that's not Christian.
Yeah. Well, they would. And in fact, Skylar actually said many times that he after I Am Hollywood, you know, because people were like, "Hey, man, your voice changed a lot." in the second one, and the truth is, he was like, "Well, for one, I wasn't 18, and two, I smoked a lot of cigarettes."
Yeah,
and
dude.
It is clear that that's what happened.
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
Because his voice is so different in I Am Hollywood.
Yeah, they kind of changed up their sound, which I like, but it's very
too,
like
yeah.
It's fun. I'm assuming. Do you listen to? I haven't listened to it in forever, but the Tooth and Nail podcast that came out for a little bit.
Labeled, yeah,
Labeled, dude. It was terrible audio quality for a podcast from a record company, but
exactly.
But it was so interesting to hear like all these dudes who are now in their like early 40s, talk, or late 40s even, talk about how they were 17 and like icons, basically, like all the Under Oath ones where they talked about like the fall, from that famous 2006 Warped Tour. I think it was Tim McTague was like, dude, we were kids. He's like, we were 17 years old, and a rumor came out that our lead singer was doing drugs. So we just did the only thing we knew, which was like, we got to pray about it and kick him out. It's like we didn't even have rational like thinking in our brain yet.
So true. Yeah. And that's not even the only label where things like that were happening to. Because you think of like Drive Through Records, where it's like Ace Enders in the early November was like 15 when they got signed.
Dude, it's crazy.
He's a baby. He was a baby when they got signed. And I mean, and what's so crazy, what's even more crazy is that those songs are actually good still.
Because they hold up.
Yeah, because you're like, that's like a 16-year-old who wrote like For All of This. You know what I mean? Like it's
crazy,
wild.
Dude.
Yeah, it's wild to think of. Like Andrew McMahon from Something Corporate was still in high school when they got signed. Like all this stuff. Like it was a wild time because, and I think that's kind of what drew me and probably a lot of kids to that scene, because we were like, that could be us. Like all we need to do is learn an instrument.
100%, man.
Right?
Yeah, because it was like before Screamo, to me, rock stars were like Iggy Pop, like the Ramones. I mean, they were dead by the time, but like all these old, even Dave Grohl, who like when I was in my teens was already in his like late 30s. So I was like, these are, you have to be old to be a rock star,
Yeah.
And then
I forgot for a second that you didn't grow up Christian like I did, because I was like, back then when I was growing up, rock stars were Stephen Curtis Chapman and Michael Dudley Smith. Like
that's funny, dude. I think
like those aren't rock stars at all.
Yeah, no, dude. No, I was still like, even I guess like Blink-182, but like they were even in their, I think their 20s maybe by the time I started listening to them. Like, so like seeing these dudes, so it's like, because like we had a very famous venue in Raleigh called the Brewery. It sucks. It got torn down forever ago, but it was like, dude, I saw a 16-year-old Haley Williams there open up for Cartel, which like was wild.
Such a good band, yeah.
And I was like, oh, these guys are only a few years older than me. It was like, I was like a freshman, sophomore at the time. It was like these guys were seniors, and I was just like, oh, that's attainable. I just need to learn, chords on my bass guitar. And then I was like, oh no, it also requires talent.
It requires talent, and then a lot of touring and so much stuff. Because like, dude, I was in bands since I was like 14, and I did the road and things like that, and it was difficult, man. Like it was a really difficult thing to do, and like, and even then, like it's so hard to like make your mark, especially I mean, back then it seemed a little easier, to be honest, because it felt like all you needed was like a couple thousand people listening to your MySpace account.
Yeah, dude, it's like it was very easy to like pick up steam.
Yeah, and like now it's so saturated.
Big
it's
time,
so
dude.
Saturated where
what's crazy is like it was probably saturated back then, but not like the tools of social media weren't as like accessible. It's like not everyone didn't have high-speed internet, or some people didn't even have fucking internet.
Well, and it's true, because like and that's also to say that like there are some bands now that are so good, and like and they deserve so much, and it's like, well, this person was on a Disney Channel show that people saw on Disney Plus, so let's just give her an arena tour instead. I'm not saying any names, but you can figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that she's not talented. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's extremely talented.
Very
but what
much
I'm saying
so.
is like what I'm saying is there's so much of it, you know. And I guess in a lot of ways it's almost like that age-old question of like, is LeBron James better than Michael Jordan? And it's like, well, there's a huge possibility because
is
LeBron
Taylor
James
Swift better than Under Oath?
Well, that's my question.
Yeah.
But like, no, I mean, but literally the reason why you can argue that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan is because he had Michael Jordan to watch.
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of why there's so
that's
much.
Cool. Yeah. I never thought of that.
And that's why there's so much good music, because it's just like, it's so attainable, you know. Like, it's because back then, dude, when we were kids, I mean, not to be, you know, an old man yelling at the cloud, but like,
we're old, dude. My back, you're gonna see me moving. You're gonna see me moving around a bunch because my back hurts all the time. Like,
dude, I wish I were any better. I'm recording from my bed, so
nice.
At any point I can just press a button and shit into a toilet. But yeah, like it's so accessible. And what's so funny is like when we were kids, we would buy a CD, and dude, if you made a bad selection at Best Buy,
you're stuck with it. Did you ever listen to Boxcar Racer?
I sure did.
Dude, I vividly, I hope even if I go senile, I hope I get to keep this memory. I vividly remember when I bought the Boxcar Racer CD. I was at this CD store in, actually, oddly enough, the town that I ended up going to college in, but I was with my cousin, and we walked in, and it was just like, there were like 4 of it, and there was like a little sign that was like, Blink-182's new band or whatever. And my cousin was like, oh yeah, I heard about that. And he was like, I don't fucking care. And I was like, I'll buy it. It's cool. And we put it in, and I was like, this fucking rules, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and now it's like one of my favorite albums of all time. Like,
oh, dude, there is nothing better. And this is also another thing that that maybe generations now growing up may not get, is there's nothing better than giving a band a second chance. Because sometimes that second listen, you're like, oh, I just wasn't ready that first time. You know what I mean?
I'm a big, I mean, to take it out of emo, but I think still in sad boy music, I'm a huge Bon Iver or Bon Iver, however you pronounce it, fan.
Yeah.
And I loved For Emma, loved the Blood Bank EP, and then he started the self-titled album, also great. But then that next album, I think it was I or 22 A Million. It was very different. He like was bringing in more electronic sounds and looping. And I remember the first time I listened to it, and I was like, this is different. Maybe this is not for me anymore. And then I listened to it a second time, and I was like, nah, this fucking rules.
It's and you know, same goes here with one of my favorite artists and people just in general is Donald Glover.
Nice.
And
dude.
like I love his music. I love him as a comedian. I love him as an actor, all that stuff. He was the first person that made me realize like, oh, like I don't have to pick one thing. Like, because I was a musician for so long, but people would be like, oh, you're funny. And I was like, I want to be an actor. I want to be a comedic actor. But like, I should also just kind of keep doing this music thing. And then I was like, why don't I just do all of it? Like,
dude, people forget that Donald Glover was a stand-up. Like,
well, and here's the thing is like when he was on Community, that's when Camp came out. His first official Glass Note record came out. And so that's like be a Donald Glover historian now, but like
hit me with it, dude.
But essentially that's when it came out. And I remember specifically how much I respected the fact that there wasn't a sticker on the CD that said from NBC's Community. Like, it just said Childish Gambino, and if you knew what it was, you knew what it was.
And
dude, that was it.
And it was a phenomenal album.
Yeah, it's a great album. And not to mention, like, he's also done a few changes, like, you know, with like Awaken My Love and things like that, where it became more funkadelic sounding and
very
things
much
like
so.
that. And the first time I heard it, I was like, he's not rapping. I don't like this, you know. But then, after a while, I was like, this is actually great music, you know.
Dude, it was so good.
I want to kind of pivot a little bit and ask you a fun childhood question here. And what were your favorite snacks growing up?
Ooh, that's a great question. Okay. I can remember one specifically. Chocolate and peanut butter, game over, dude. If it's in front of me, I'm gonna eat it. And Walmart. So Walmart's like, white labeled brand. It's just called Sam's Choice.
Yeah.
And they had these. I love Reese's, but the peanut butter has always been a little too chalky for me. Like, it's very dry. I mean, peanut butter itself obviously dries your mouth out a little bit, but it's like the peanut butter in Reese's. I'm gonna get so into this. The peanut butter in Reese's is so like chalky and grainy. And Sam's Choice had these like. They weren't like the short thin cups like Reese's were. They were the thicker, the Reese's mini cups. They're like they're a little chunkier. They were those, but the peanut butter was fucking creamy, dude. I have no idea what was in there. I would polish off an entire bag of those on the regular, dude. Because we were, my parents were divorced. My mom was a Walmart lady. We were not, she worked there. We just always went to Walmart for shopping. And it was like every time I was going to Walmart, I was getting those. They came in like a little Ziploc bag. There's probably like 100 in there, and they were gone the day I got them. Like I was throwing. So probably those, and I don't think they make them anymore. And then
they probably
definitely not.
Probably isn't healthy to like.
No, I was obese as a child, 100% because of those things.
Dude, somebody said this perfectly on my podcast. He was like, we all grew up obese because we had purple ketchup.
Like, yeah, dude. We were the test case for so much shit, dude. Like they were the government, food brands, everyone was just like, hey, let's just, they probably knew. They're like, the world's going to fucking catch on fire in like 50 years. Let's just see what we can get away with. And it was like, purple ketchup. I remember for me, we had milk pouches one year. No idea why. They're like, let's get rid of the cartons. We're going to try milk pouches on these kids. Yeah. So they're just like silicone boob inserts full of milk that we had to stab a straw into. We were the test case for so much shit. It's probably go-to snacks is probably those. And then, so that's the sweet side. On the salty side, I think they're phasing them out, man. But there's Utz, the chip brand, has a like side brand, or not side brand. It's branded differently than all the other bags. It's called Grandma Utz, and they're kettle cooked, just regular potato chips.
Okay,
they are the greasiest, most delicious chips you will ever put in your mouth, dude. And they're so hard to find now. They used to be everywhere, and it's like. The bag is like a, regular Utz. They're just like normal thin plastic. The bag for these is like paper, and you open the bag and the inside is like coated with like a silver foil. No idea why. They're so greasy, dude. Your hands will be fucking coated. But they're same thing, dude. Actually, my wife is out of town this weekend, and I'm probably gonna go find a bag of those because I would love nothing more than that's gonna be my dinner one night,
dude. By the way, the amount of times I've had guests text me after the podcast, cursing me out, telling me that they're gonna gain 10 pounds after podcast, like because I tell them to talk about all this food, like I'm some freaking voyeuristic cuck that's just like jerking it to you talking about cereal.
Tell me more about this food. Oh, baby. Dude, my cereal preferences are like pretty tame. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love everyone fucks with Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I love it. But to me, the perfect it has to be a perfect scenario. And I'm going to describe this. It's got to be a wooden bowl, like a thick wood bowl. If you chill the bowl, you're doing great. Doesn't need to be chilled, but it would be great if it's chilled. And then you just get fucking Frosted Flakes, just regular Tony the Tiger ass Frosted Flakes, and whole milk, and that's all you need, dude. That is the perfect combination, in my opinion. It's not too sweet. If you eat it fast enough, it stays pretty crispy the whole time. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Lucky Charms. I love Frosted Flakes. I love the super sugary, but it's like, for me, I'm eating 3 to 4 bowls of cereal at a time. I'm very rarely eating one bowl of cereal. And I get a little like over-satiated if I eat like 4 bowls of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Yeah. But Frosted Flakes, man, I can keep going back. They're gross in my brain because my sister told me when I was a kid that they were actually scabs. they're like, yeah, people pick off their scabs and it's dry them out and it's cereal. And my dumb ass was like, well, they're delicious, so that's fine. But yeah, man, I love Frosted Flakes. If I'm, like I said, if I'm going nuts, I'll get like a Reese's Puffs. But same thing, it's like it's just too sweet sometimes.
Yeah, no, agreed. It's funny. I have a bit about cereal that I do. It's a crowd work bit, and the only reason why it works is because I'm actually insane, and I have a joke about every cereal that's ever been made. And and so,
do you know what cereal can get absolutely fucked? In my opinion,
which one?
And sorry if they sponsor this podcast, but Magic Spoon, dude. Magic Spoon is
I absolutely love this. This is the second episode where we're shit talking Magic Spoon.
Good.
And I'm here for it.
Disgusting, dude.
I'm here for it. They can eat all the dicks at the freaking at the factory.
I'd rather eat dried shit because it would probably make my mouth feel less weird. Like I try to be a somewhat diet conscious person. I'm a bigger dude. I fluctuate 20 to 30 pounds every year. I get big and then I lose it. I'll never be like fully in shape. But when I'm like in my big, healthy mode, it's like I forget and I go back every single time like, well, they came out with new flavors. Maybe I'll try Magic Spoon again. No, it fucking tastes like chemicals. It leaves this weird film on the inside of your mouth. It literally feels like someone took styrofoam from like Amazon packages, turned it into little balls, and then like just sprinkled shitty sugar over it. It's disgusting, dude.
Dude, here's the thing. And look, like I said before, the last time I should talk this brand, if they're willing to pay me, I'll act like it's a great cereal.
Oh, I'll eat crow. Yeah, I'll fucking, if they want to give me money, 100%.
Because here's the thing, nothing tastes better than a check clearing. You know what I mean,
brother? Yeah, dude. Totally agree.
So I'm here for it if they want to pay for it. But just please know, if I say that Magic Spoon is good, it's because they're paying me.
100%, dude. Dude, my job right now, I won't say, I mean, you look it up on LinkedIn. I won't say who I work for or what exactly that I do, but we review certain things and I don't even know if I can say that. I'm gonna say it anyway. Everything's paid for. Every review that you see online is mostly paid for, and it's mostly lies. So, and in the same way, if Magic Spoon started paying me, it's the most delicious cereal in the world.
But is okay, you made me malfunction for a second, but like the thing that's so great about that is like there is no more. It's like that Bo Burnham quote where he's like, art is a lie, nothing is real.
Yeah.
It's so much like the second you see like, hey guys, it's me, Terry from TikTok, and it's like,
it's all a fucking lie,
you
man.
are lying to me. Like
there is no like normal. I don't think I can. I think there's an NDA in my current work contract. I wanted to start a YouTube, or not even just like on my Instagram, where it's like, I'm gonna give you honest reviews. Like I'm not gonna hold back. And it's like, there are people who do that on YouTube, but you can just tell because it's like, it's the language they use. No one's like, because brands don't want you to cuss. They don't want you to talk bad. They, all this stuff. But for me, I'd be like, yo, this thing fucking sucks, dude. Like, I don't know if you remember, it was this hipster ass pan. It got really popular during COVID. It was called like the Everyday Pan. I don't remember what brand it was, but they were like, it comes in fun colors, and it's like every white girl was promoting it because it looked really good. And they're like, it's nonstick. That thing was nonstick for like one use, and that's it, dude. It was the worst fucking pan I'd ever had in my entire life. And I made it like a point for like 6 months on my Instagram to be like, do not buy this. They fucking suck. And I had so many friends who were like, wait, I wanted to get it. Is it really not good? And I would like send videos to them of like, here's me cooking one egg. And it was like it worked. It's like it absorbed the egg. That's how nonstick it was. It was terrible, dude.
Dude, but that's so funny because like here's what's crazy is if you did start a TikTok or review channel where you did that, eventually you would become the thing you hated.
Because it would get big, and then brands would reach out and they'd be like, hey, because I worked in advertising for like 8 years. Brands would reach out and they'd be like, hey, we think it's cool if you roasted us. And then I would be like, okay, well, this thing sucks. And they come back to be like, could you not say sucks? Like, could you be like, doesn't live up to my expectations or something like that. And then the verbiage would change, and then everyone would know that you're fucking bought and paid for. Yeah.
Dude, this happened one time where someone had a review of Taco Bell, and they were just making a small joke. For the most part, it was all good. Because here's the thing: if you're a Taco Bell fan, you're gonna like everything they do. Like
100%, dude.
They're the Donald Glover of they're the Donald Glover of fast food.
They're always innovating.
Yeah.
The Crunchwrap Supreme was their camp.
Yeah, but it's pretty much all the same stuff. Like when you really think about it. So, but all he was saying was like, "This is great," and he's like, "I don't even feel bad about the diarrhea I'm gonna have later." Like it was like a small joke, and Taco Bell didn't give him the money, blocked him, like all this stuff because he said that he was gonna have diarrhea from Taco Bell, and it's like, bro, like who are we kidding?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
I have a sorry, my cat is
no, you're all good.
It's her feeding time, so she's like, "Fucking feed me." She can wait. I have a theory about Taco Bell. I've never once gotten diarrhea from Taco Bell.
Yeah,
I think it's like a weird, like, I don't know if racist is the right word to use, but it's this weird like Hispanic fear where everyone's just like, "Oh, if you use beans, it makes you fart," and there's so many beans in there, you're gonna get diarrhea. I think people who get diarrhea, unless you have like Crohn's or something that like fucks with your stomach, I think if you get diarrhea from Taco Bell, you're a soft dude.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, and what I mean by like getting diarrhea is like I just mean fast food in general. You know what I mean?
Because it's not food. Like it's not.
Because it's not food. Exactly.
Yeah. It's a fucking science project. It's $1 billion industry where they have literally scientists in a kitchen being like, all right, how can we cram as many calories in the thinnest amount of like freeze-dried beef possible? It's this. I tried to write a joke a long time ago, but like it's the $6 million man. Like when they rebuilt Steve Austin, was he still a human? Yes, but was he like also not really? Also yes. You know, like the Big Mac is the $6 million man. Like it's food in the same way that Steve Austin was a person. Like,
dude, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this because I heard from different podcasts and stuff that you were on that you did some missionary work. And I did a lot of missionary work as well.
Hell yeah, baby.
And from this, and it's okay if you don't remember, but from trips that you took to Mexico or whatever places that you went to, do you remember any international foods where you were like, this slaps, I wish we had this back in the States, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, when I went on that mission trip, I was already like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I was trying to figure out if I wanted to do, which was funny because when I booked the trip and then the whole year it took to plan it, when I booked it, I was sold out for Christ, you know, and to use that phrase. Yeah. And then by the time the trip happened, I was like, I don't know if I believe in this anymore.
Right.
But I remember you could drink in Mexico because not only do they not give a shit, but it's 18 and I was 18. Yeah. So I was like, I'm fucking getting hammered. So like, and like the second night I went out with a couple friends and we like had like 3 beers and got drunk. But, so it was definitely like legit street tacos. But then growing up, I went to this international camp and we had a lot of we had South America, Central America, Spaniards, everything. And I remember, I think it's a Mexican candy, but it's called Rockeyetas, and it's like it's a spicy lollipop. Oh my God, dude, they were fucking delicious. Because I love spicy stuff. I would put like 3 of those away at a time.
Dude, it's so good. I love that. I want to move on to our next bit, which every episode of this podcast, I like to review a box of cereal with my guests.
Let's do it. Hell yeah, dude.
So I usually like to pick a cereal that has something to do with my guest in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
I spoke with my sponsors over at Kellogg's, and when they told me to stop masturbating, they told me, no, I'm kidding. No, I did not. I don't actually have a sponsor. I just bought this cereal. The cereal that I chose for you is Kellogg's Zucaritas.
Oh, hell yeah, baby.
So you were talking about how you like
Dude,
Frosted
that could
Flakes.
not have been planned any better. Oh my God,
dude. Well, first of all, I'm very good at my job. Okay,
yeah, clearly, dude. Holy shit.
So I have kind of a weird superpower where like I can kind of tell who's like a person's like soul cereal.
That
fucking
like rules, dude. Oh my God.
So essentially, if you're just listening, Zurcaritas are Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, but they are Mexican. They're the Mexican brand.
Because azúcar is sugar in Spanish, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. These are
And like
basically it translates into little sugar, basically.
Yeah. Like, well, technically, it's the cute little sugar. Like,
yeah.
that's
fucking love that, dude.
yeah. Zucaritas is the cute little diabetes you're gonna get.
That's amazing, dude. And then it says de maíz at the bottom, like of corn, right? Like,
yeah, I love it. It says de maíz, and then here it says in the back it says practica tu deporte de favorito, which is practice your favorite sport.
LOL. If you eat a bowl of Frosted Flakes and then go play sports, you're gonna puke.
Dude, by the way, do you remember Frosted Flakes commercials?
Dude, yeah, they were insane,
dude. Always with people playing soccer.
Yeah.
And it's dude, who wants to eat
the stuff they push on us that were like, you can do this and be active. It's like, I think you can just do that because you're a child. Like, you can, because you're made of rubber and you can do whatever you want. Like, if I eat a bowl, if I slammed a Capri Sun and went and ran around, I would puke right now, dude. I wouldn't turn into this metallic being and jet down the track. I would probably shit my pants. Like,
yeah. Well, that's actually the shit that would be in your pants. It's a very metallic looking. Like, you'd be like, you're like, what is this? Am I the T1000? What is
you're
this?
shitting out Alex Mack is what you're doing.
Dude, your brain is exactly where mine is. You know what's so funny? I was like, should I make an Alex Mack joke or a Terminator
100%.
joke? And then I went with Terminator because people would get it more. And then you went with the Alex Mack joke.
In my mind, they're the same thing. And Alex Mack is actually a predecessor to the T1000.
Yes, dude. And this is what people listen to my podcast for.
Yeah, dude.
The conspiracy.
Here's the thing. I want to make that a bit so bad, but that is such a niche reference that I think it would only work like at a Comic-Con, because like you'd have to get people who like were like, first off, no Terminator lore, and second off, remember the secret world of Alex Mack. Like,
right. Yeah. And also remember Capri Sun having commercials. You know. Yeah. So this is so again going back to the cereal Zurcaritas. The thing that's great about this is it is I actually had a little bit of it and it's pretty much exactly the same. It's just gentrification.
Okay. I was curious like if it's any different because like, you know, like people love Mexican Coke because it's got like sugar cane versus processed sugar. I didn't know if that tasted any different because it had better sugar.
So there's a possibility that it might have better sugar, but to me it tastes the same. However, I am not eating Frosted Flakes on the regular. One thing that I can say is when I did have a bowl of this, it made me realize how much I actually like Frosted Flakes.
That's the thing, dude. Anyone listening right now, you may have heard me say that I love Frosted Flakes, and you'd be like, "Oh, what a boring choice." Just go eat a thing. Even if you can find the little box, so you don't have to buy a big one. If you're curious, do it. They're phenomenal, man. You got to do it with milk. It's because the milk. It pairs well. I mean, 2% maybe, but like, don't do it with like oat milk or skim. Skim is a sin in my eyes. It's basically it's water with like white food coloring. I don't know what the hell. Yeah, and but no, Frosted Flakes hit, man. They're so good.
So you told a very funny story on Growing Up Christian, which is
I love those
my
dudes.
buddies. Yeah, I love those dudes as well.
Yeah.
You told a very funny story, at least it was funny to me, where you went to Mexico and you baptized a Mexican kid.
Hell yeah, baby.
Would you care to tell that story real quick, just for context?
I would happily. So as I mentioned earlier, I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out in my faith when I went to Mexico. I got there. And it wasn't necessarily my faith. It was my faith in, I guess, more so the charismatic church, because the group that I went with was a very like pro prophecy, pro speaking in tongues, pro spiritual gifts, if you're familiar with those. And I was like, I don't know if I believe in all this stuff. And I went there and basically uncovered in the process leading up to it, and then confirmed when I was there that like the group was a cult. And I tell that story in the podcast you referenced, Growing Up Christian. They're great. But so the first day of this mission trip, we're still getting supplies in. So like, hey, let's go out into the village, seems like a very bad word to use, but the town, and minister to these people. And I was like, I don't want to do that, because these people, there's a church in the middle of their square. They clearly know who God is. We're not bringing them anything new. So I just went and played soccer with a bunch of kids. And I got a soft spot for little fat kids, because I was a little fat kid, and there was a little fat kid who was getting made fun of, and he wasn't. So I went and played with him. he had torn up shoes, and one of the foremen on the job site actually come to find out that was like his son, and the foreman and I were bonded because I used to be able to speak Spanish. I can somewhat remember it now, but I'm terrible at it. And he and I bonded, and then I just ended up asking him, and I was like, hey man, like they tell us not to donate money, but I was like, can I like buy soccer supplies for these kids? And he was like, yeah, dude, we'll go to the Walmart. Actually, one of my favorite things is Walmart's tagline. It was like always low prices, always. And always in Spanish is just siempre. And then they had you went to the Walmart, it was like Walmart. None of that was just siempre. And I was like, oh shit. I just kind of thought it was like a proper noun. There was like, so I bought all these soccer things, gave them to the kids. Come to find out that the little kid had like a baby brother who was like, because this kid was like 6. No. Sorry, I'm remembering this wrong. It was the kid. He was like 6 or 7. I think I changed it in the story or in the stand-up bit to make it sound like a baby, but it was like he was like a toddler. And so like 5 days passed. We build the church. We build all the other houses. We're dedicating. We have a praise service to dedicate the church that we're in, and they had built this pit basically of like, sorry, my dog is like, play with me.
No, you're all good.
They had built this pit, this concrete pit that was just a well, or not a well, but it was just, they filled it with water. It was like the baptismal pit. And we're there, we're singing, we're dancing. I'm already like, this is kind of too much for me. I'm on the way out. You know, people are fucking shabba-da-da speaking in tongues. They're casting people in the spirit and all that stuff, which is like, hey, if you believe in that, it's fine. It wasn't for me. And this family, the guy walks up to me. He's like, hey, he wants you to baptize him. And I was like, I didn't know Spanish well enough to like explain, because I could only speak in like present tense. I didn't know how to be like, I don't really believe anymore. I've been thinking about my past a lot. And then he was just like, you bonded with him. He loves you. Can you do this? Because he was 6 and he hadn't accepted God yet. And I was like, sure, man, whatever. And I remember like walking into the thing, and my best friend, who was not best friend, but like my closest friend on the mission trip, who was there at the time, he knew that I was not like fully on board. So I go to the front with this kid, and the kid's crying. He's having a spiritual moment. I was so happy for him, but I lock eyes with my friend, and my friend is like, are you doing this right now? And I'm like, yeah, it's like felt like a cutscene from The Office, where I'm just like, ugh. And we went down there, and I was like, I can't remember what I said in Spanish, but I was just like, you know, your sins are clear, and it's bloop, dunked him under.
La Pinta y la Santa Maria, and you just
yeah, dude, I did it, and it felt great, but it was like, it's one of those things where I was like, ugh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, you know, because well,
I wanted you to tell that story because I wanted the listener and the viewer to have some context for what I'm about to have you do right now.
Oh, fun. Okay, hell yeah.
Which usually we like to review the box of cereal.
Okay.
But I think it would actually be really funny if we review Zucaritas if you were Tony the Tiger trying to baptize a kid in Mexico.
Oh my God. Hey, kids. I know that you've been thinking about being fed in this earthly realm, but have you also been thinking about how you can be fed spiritually? That's right, with some Zurcaritas flakes from Christaritas. Come, join me in these baptismal milk waters. It may look like skim milk, but these waters will make you whole in the body of Christ. Join me, and I'll dunk you in these baptismal flakes, and we can take part in my body. Because as the great book says, my Zuccarita and Christarita flakes broken for you as atonement for your sins. The blood of my blood spilled for you as this whole milk for your sins.
I love it.
And you know what they say about Christ? He's great.
Yes. Great tag. Zurcaritas, everybody. Oh my goodness. They said it couldn't be done. They were probably right, but we did it. Pardon the brief interruption, besties, but me and my buddy Alf just wanted to talk to you about Childlike Wonder. Childlike Wonder is the official merchandise store of Mike Valdes and of Childlike at Best. As you can see here, there are some shirts with my face on them that say Comedy's favorite cartoon. as well as the Viewmaster collection, which is one of my favorite designs that we have. You've seen me rock many a t-shirt from the Viewmaster collection. Another is some of the church merch that we have. We have a shirt that just says church camp. We also have a crew neck that says unspoken prayer request, because as good Christian kids, we all had those unspoken prayer requests that were definitely rumors about Stacy or whatever person we knew growing up in the church. I'm so excited about this collection, and I'm so excited to release it to all of the besties. So if you want to support the show or support me in any way, please just go to childlikewonder.co and grab yourself a tee or a crew neck and tag me on Instagram. I'll repost you. I'm super excited for you guys to get into this. So thank you guys for supporting, and thank you guys for being so incredibly amazing. Now, back to the show.
What a fun bit, dude. I love that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I always that's usually the part of this podcast that I get the most scared of, because that is where a guest can either completely lock into how silly that is, or just not give me anything. And I'm really glad that you yes-anded that bit.
Nothing's worse than not getting anything from anyone. We had my old podcast, which doesn't exist anymore. It was music based, and we had a comic on one time out of LA. And he could not have made it more obvious that he did not give a shit about not only us, but the podcast. And it was just like, it was one of those things where we were like, you could have just like said no. Like,
Well, that's the thing. Like, why waste your time? You know what I mean? Like, why give me your time if all you're going to do is like just dunk on like how much you don't want to be here or whatever.
He was such an asshole. He was like taking phone calls and being like, yeah, I'm not doing anything important right now. And it's like, all right, man. And actually he got canceled. He's a sex pest. So.
Okay, that's good. So it was Crystalia, everybody. Yeah. So go listen to Flop or Flop with Crystalia.
LOL. That'd be wild. No, I mean, we only had a few from LA. You could probably figure it out because it's a terrible episode.
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, you can usually also figure it out because there's very few LA comedians that have gone through sexual problems.
100%.
Yeah. For the listener, I just made a face that was very sarcastic, and
it was honestly great. You have a very animated face. It's amazing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. That's why I call myself the kid from Up. So,
oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah, well, thanks, man.
Have you ever dressed up as him for Halloween?
No, because I don't want to give people what they want.
It would be too on the nose. Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah.
If I do that, I would cause car accidents on the highway.
They'd want it too bad.
Like,
I
just don't want to do that. So yeah. I want to talk about comedy with you, man, just because I'm such a fan of yours, and like I listened to your album Dinner at 4 p.m.
Thank you, dude.
And I love that record, and also I saw like a few clips and things like that, and I was just like, man, not only do I relate to this person as a human being, but also like we kind of write the same kind of
I love that. That's always fun. Yeah.
You know, like for example, the first joke I ever wrote was a joke about Air Bud.
Oh, hell yeah.
And you actually have a great bit
about
Air Bud that is way different than the joke that I had and all that stuff. I don't really tell that joke anymore, mostly because out
of respect for the passing of Air Bud.
Who was also Comet on Full House, which I also have a joke about.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, I have a joke about Full House as well. So there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I love your style and like the very like it almost feels like which this is it's going to sound weird, but it's like
go for it.
Stuff or listening, it's almost like I'm just getting to hang out with somebody that has some really funny stories to
tell.
Dude,
thank you, because it takes how long have you been doing comedy?
About 7 years.
Okay, so we're about in the same time frame. I started and I quit for like 4 years, then I started back up in 2018. But like, it takes so long, and you hear older comics talk about this, and I still don't even think I'm there yet, but like to develop your voice, you know, like there's that, like, you know, are you going to be Carlin? Are you going to be Burr? Are you going to be a Dane Cook type? Are you going to be a Beth Stelling? You know, like, who are you going to be? And that's also, to put Beth Stelling in that same group shows how much, how highly I think of Beth Stelling, but she's great.
Dude, she's freaking amazing. I love that.
It, like, I'll go back and watch old clips of mine, and I'm like, what am I trying to be, like Anthony Jeselnik or something? Or like, I'm trying to be like a Daniel. I'm trying to be this like smarmy, like cunty dude. And it's like, no, that's not who I am. Like, and honestly, I've been going to therapy for 7 years. Since when I started going to therapy and I learned and accepted more of who I was as a person, is when I actually helped me find who my voice was as a comedian. And it's just like, I'm not quick. I'm going to take you on a journey, and it's like, some of that journey may not be funny, but the end will be funny. Yeah. And there's some times where I have to, like, I'm doing a show tonight where I'm doing like 10 minutes of all brand new stuff. And I did that same set last night, and it was a fucking dog shit crowd. It was like, there was like 12 people. We're in the side room at Good Nights. I love that room. But they were just like, there was like 12 comics. They were just tired. And I was like number 10. And I was talking, and I was just like, you got to hold on with me here, because this is going to be a long story, and then we'll get to the end and you'll enjoy it. But I like that more, because unless you're like super duper famous, comedy is such a weirdly personal thing, because I'm sure you have it too. People come up to you and they're like, how do you do that? How do you get on stage and talk to strangers and put yourself out there? And I'm like, I don't know, man, because I need validation. But but like, when in reality, it's like, you're getting up there and you're like, I'm going to be vulnerable. I need to tell you guys a lot about myself so you can rock with me. Because it's like, like I said, if you're like otherworldly good, like there's a girl in our scene. She's massive now. Maddie Weiner. She was like 18 years old and doing comedy down here. And it was so obvious. It's like, oh, she's going to be famous, because she was hilarious when she was 18. And she's a killer now. And it's like, no one ever had to buy in on her, because from the get-go, you're like, this person's funny. Yeah. And that probably speaks to the quality of my comedy. But a little bit of it's like, I need you to connect with me on a personal level so you can really, really get this. Yeah. And I used to make a joke on TikTok where it's like, I make content for like 17 people. And I feel like my jokes are the same way. You know, it's like, I make jokes for like, it's not everyone's going to get it, but the people who get it are really, really, really going to love it. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the same too, man. I mean, while you were saying that, I was thinking, I was told by a comedian when I was just starting comedy, that when you're writing a joke, it's completely fine to do longer premises and things like that. However, the journey that you take someone on has to be worth it. So like the metaphor they used was, it's like blowing a balloon. Where you can blow the balloon very small and pop it, and do that constantly throughout your set. And then people are like, oh, that was a great show, because it had a lot of pops in it. As opposed to, you can do a long-winded whatever, but that pop better be worth it.
Yeah, because if it totally agree.
Because if it isn't, you just wasted everybody's time. Yeah. So, and of course, that comes a lot easier with comedians like a Dave Chappelle or a Chris Rock, because they've had years where, in a lot of ways, I use the metaphor of like, when a comedian is a lot like a pilot, where like, if at any point they feel like the plane's going down, they're just not going to trust you anymore.
Dude, 100%. There was a guy last night, I won't name him. He did the show, and
Chris D'Elia again?
It's crazy, dude. He won't leave me alone, dude. God.
Shows up with his eye patch, like we're just getting closer to who it actually is.
Oddly enough, it's a guy who probably thinks Chris D'Elia did nothing wrong, but he's one of those, like, he's kind of an edgelord comic, and I like him because, like, off stage, he's actually a pretty nice dude. He's got some bad political opinions, but I'm trying to look past that. But his on stage persona is so, like, he just says rude things to be rude. And he said, so I'll say this word. I unfortunately use it a lot because I grew up in this generation that did, but he said retarded. And there's either or, everything that's good or bad or not, but he said that word. And then he was like, I'm making an autistic joke, which is like, you never want to make that connection. And then a woman in the audience was like, well, my son's autistic, because the crowd immediately pulled back when he said that word. And then he doubled down. And the woman was like, my son's autistic. And he was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, it was just, it didn't like, he tried to like, it was very early on where it was like, he said the plane's going down. And then immediately the crowd was like, well, we don't like you. It's like, he even could have rebounded and been like, I'm so sorry, and said something funny. Or sometimes it's better if you just like reference that you did bad, you know? Like,
no, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, sometimes there's just, I mean, I'm not really the comic to put myself in a situation like that, because I wouldn't say words like that. But but there are comedians who quite literally do that all the time, and it's a bummer, you know. And it's like, and they blame it on like, you know, this is going to sound kind of edgy, but like, I'm just being honest. Like, a lot of comedians, like, when they're just being a dick, will be like, oh, well, it's because I'm autistic. And it's like, no, you're just a jerk off. Like,
it's so annoying how that's like become a thing where it's like, no, you're just an asshole, dude. It's like, you're not.
What happened to just being an asshole?
It's like, you're not on the spectrum. We had a guy in our scene who was like that. And like, he would say some fucked up stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Like, really like anti-Semitic, and then he'd be like, "Oh, it's okay."
If a comedian is telling you, "Hey, don't say that," maybe you shouldn't do that, because like, we hear a lot of stuff and horrible things, and sometimes we're like, "That's good, that's ready to go on stage."
And there's also like, there's ways to bring up like problematic words like this and say them in the right way. Like I wasn't a huge fan of his early on, but I've recently gotten more into him. But like, Shane Gillis is very good at like saying something problematic, but like softening it up, and then also pointing out how insane it is. You know, he's really, really good at that. And I love it when you can do that. I actually opened up for him a few months ago. His podcast co-host, it's wild. I don't know that much about other comedians. I try to not pay attention to it because I do it all the time. I want to keep my free time for other things. And I got offered to work with Matt McCusker. Hilarious dude. I had no idea who he was until I started working with him. His closing joke is so fucking good, dude. It's his brand new hour that he's working on, but I'm not going to do the joke, but it's basically a joke saying that women take a long time to get ready because they're insecure about how their body looks, because the way women's clothes fit show their whole body. Right. He's like, if dudes' clothes showed the exact shape of their dick, we would also take forever to get ready. And it's just like, it's such a good joke.
Great premise. That's a great premise.
It's like so smart, because like, his crowd is it's a dudes rock crowd. They're like rabid younger dudes that want to hear bad words. But the way that he like appeases them, but then also tells smart, succinct, like amazing jokes it's phenomenal. I've never seen another comedian work like that. It was so awesome to see him work.
Yeah, those guys, it's funny. Like, it's funny that you said that, like the crowd is very like, you know, kind of rock and roll, like,
oh dude,
kid.
that weekend, I've never like opened for like a dudes rock crowd like that. I told my friends afterwards, I was like, it's the most like, so his fans, I describe them as, it's the most in love you can be with a dude without being gay. Like I had guys come up to me and they were like, "You were so funny, dude." And then they would ask me about Matt or his opener, who was this guy named Tim Butterly, also very funny. And they would be like, literally one dude, Tim, was standing behind me and he was like, "Do you think I can go give him a high five? Like, is that okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, like he fucking loved that." And he's like, "Oh my God, dude." They just like, they were just so over the moon with these dudes. I've never seen anything like it. It was wild.
Yeah. And it's weird. And like, you know, kind of to go back to music for a second, where like, how I feel about Shane Gillis is not that I don't find him funny or anything like that. It's that I would, you know, of course, like, I as a fan, I wouldn't go to a show of his
for sure.
And the reason why is because of his crowd, much like how I wouldn't go to a certain band's concert because of their crowd. Even though I listen to them and I like them and I support them, I might wear a t-shirt, like anything, but I just don't want to be associated with that kind of crowd, you know?
It's like, that's so smart, because like fans can ruin so many things, dude. Like, it's wild. And I totally agree, man. I've like,
the thing that's even worse is you can't choose your fans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I know, like, without naming names, I've worked with comedians who have rabid fan bases, and you can tell that they're just like, oh my God, okay. Like literally they had to like psych themselves up to go. Actually, I don't like this dude, so I can say this. Matt Rife. Yeah. I've never seen someone have so much disdain for his fans who literally want to suck his dick. Like,
I mean, you know, I don't blame him, to be completely honest.
Not at all.
Because he's just a dude at the end of the day. Like, he's just a dude, and he has, like, this might sound crazy to people that have not seen Matt Rife before, but he is very good looking.
Oh, it's insane,
and
dude.
It is objectionable that he is good looking. Like, he is absolutely so good looking. Like, there's just no way around it.
Yeah, you can't argue.
The reason why I respect him is because he has to be 3 times as funny because of how good looking he is.
He said something like really. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, like, that's why I respect him. Is like, you know, like, there's a lot of things that he does that kind of make my eyes roll. Yeah. Because it's just like, well, now everybody's posting crowd work probably because they think they're going to be the next Matt Rife, and it's like,
they're not.
You're not,
because you don't look like Matt Rife.
Yeah, you're not as funny as Andrew Schultz, so it's not gonna work the same for you. Yeah, it might work for Jessica Kirson, but that's because she's been doing this for 30 years, and she's funnier than you are. You've been in this for 3 years, you know. So and like, I mean, your joke about like how someone like, hey, where'd you get that shirt? The stupid shirt store, like. That's not going to get anybody to watch your TikTok.
Or like someone crowd working with you and you're like, oh, okay, that's fucking dumb. That's not going to do well. Yeah.
And then just freeze frame all your dates to like open mics you're doing.
I've done
shut the fuck
like
up, man. Like I'm making fun of myself at the same time, but like,
oh, same, dude. Dude, I look back at like the early Instagram posts I made when I first started getting like actual club work, and I was like, oh my God, I got to fucking post about it. And then it was like so funny because it's like, who am I posting this for? At the time, I had like 2,000 followers, and most of those were like people who followed me because I used to be like a hiking account, you know. Yeah. But back with Matt Rife, like I don't like him, but I respect him. He did Good Nights 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, and had like 30 people there, and then he did it earlier this year and sold out 7 shows. Sold out so much that they had to have like hire extra security. It was insane. And he had a really good thing where I didn't work with him, but I worked the side room, and we were all in the green room. And he was like, because he keeps getting interrupted because girls want to interrupt him and be in crowd work because they want to be in his videos. And he was like, it's such a bummer. He's like, I've kind of painted myself into a corner. He's like, I really want to work on my jokes, but I can't because I get up there and he said it in a very crass way, but he's like, these people won't shut the fuck up.
It's true. It's true though. Like you know, and I say this with all due respect to both of them, to both of these people I'm talking about, but he is in a lot of ways comedy's Taylor Swift. Yeah. Because
yes, great.
It's the same fan base where they just will not. I mean, dude, and I'm saying this as a Taylor Swift fan. I went to the Taylor Swift Eras tour. Yeah. And I wasn't in nosebleeds, but I was in like relatively like,
you were there.
I was far away, but I was there. And people were so loud as if they were like, Taylor's gonna hear me.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, she can't even see you, much less hear you. Like,
she can barely see the people who are in the front row. The stage is so high.
Yeah, she can barely make out the face of her own security. Yeah. Like, let's just say that. Like, that's how far back you are. Yeah. You know, like, it's wild, but he, in a lot of ways, it sucks, man, because like, you know, one thing will go viral where like he does a bit to be funny as crowd work where he pulls his belt off, and now every girl's like, can you do the belt thing? And it's like, for the love of God, man, he's
just let the man work.
But in a lot of ways, I kind of like it, and like,
it's fun.
It sounds like a bit, but it's kind of true. Like, I like it because I think guys finally get to see women do what guys do to women.
Yes, dude. 100%, man.
Because like Christina P were on stage, like, and a dude was like, show us your tits. Yeah, it's the same exact thing.
100%.
Same exact thing. You are still the problem.
Yeah.
Like, so in a way, I kind of like it, but
it's just funny to see. It's like, oh yeah, sex makes people go insane.
Yeah, but that's what it is, and it has nothing to do with gender. It's just like, it's just because when something is,
you can rationalize it. Everybody horny.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Yeah,
yeah,
everybody horny.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to get everybody pregnant, you know.
Yeah,
and like, so, we've been talking for quite some time, and I'm so happy that you were able to do this, and
yeah,
it
man,
was
this was so
such
much
an
fun.
honor to have you, man. And I have just a couple questions left for you.
Yeah, hit me with it, dude.
Yeah, but the first question that I have for you is this, and that is, what advice would you give to your younger self if you were to talk to them today?
Ooh, that's so good, because I literally we did an exercise for this in therapy. Give yourself a fucking break, man.
Yeah.
I am so hard on myself.
Yeah.
Both very emotionally. I don't give myself a lot of credit. I
Same.
don't let myself like soak in the victories or any wins. You know, I'm immediately like, how can I? Because it's like I want to keep being better. And unfortunately, and it's not really a fault of my parents. I just didn't know how to do any better. But like the way that they would motivate me is be like, well, this wasn't good enough, you know?
Right.
And they weren't overbearing like that at all. They were so supportive. I'm not trying to make it sound like I grew up in some hellhole. My parents could not have loved me anymore. But they were just very, you know, my dad was like, I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Like, I would have a girlfriend. I would show him a picture and he would be like, good. He's like, I think you can do better. Just like just things like that, which is like kind of fucked up, but like not terrible. But so I like,
not to completely cut you off, but I just want to let you know that you're in a safe space, because I completely know how you feel.
Yeah,
in
dude.
fact, I've been on a weight loss journey this is like my 12th weight loss journey in my life.
Hell yeah,
but,
same, dude.
Yeah, but I've been on this weight loss journey, and I remember I lost a bunch of weight, and I was well over 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And I remember I told my dad, it was like this big milestone. I was like, I haven't been, 290 in like this long.
Yeah.
And he was like, and he meant this probably in the nicest way possible.
I know, dude. But that generation just doesn't know how to talk to people.
But he was just like, and I remember he found an elliptical, and at like a Gold's Gym elliptical that they threw away, and he put it in our garage, and he's like, I got you this elliptical, but it has a weight limit of 250. And so he's like, so get back to me when you're 250.
Dude,
and I was
brutal.
And so like, I know that he meant to do good.
Yeah.
But the amount of like just complete devastation that I felt when I was like, because I was just like, I worked so hard to get somewhere where that I haven't been in literal years.
Yeah.
And you just told me, well, 40
Not
pounds more and you'll be able to exercise even more.
And 40 pounds is so much, dude. Like, yeah, man. To tie it back into the question, I would give myself more credit, or give myself a break. Just, I think younger me, specifically in like my early 20s, I was so hard on myself for like not like, oh, I'm not married, or I don't have a good job, or I'm not where I need to be yet. And it's just like, dude, none of that matters. Just fucking let yourself sleep.
Yeah, my younger self would be like, how are you 35 and not married with a kid?
Yeah, dude.
Like, like, how is that?
Which is wild, because like I'm married now, but the idea of having a kid is like insane to me. Like,
well, I mean, just growing up in church, like you're just primed to marry so young.
Very much so,
which is why none of those marriages work.
Dude, 100%. Oh my God.
Because they just want to marry each other to doink, and then when they doink, they're like, we actually don't like each other that much, right?
Dude,
now we have all this nut fog out of our head. Like, we're
nut fog is hilarious, dude. Oh my God. That's great, dude. Yeah. No, I think about the girl that I dated late in college. I wasn't that much of a Christian anymore, but like we dated for almost 3 years, and then we almost got married. And I'm like, I would be, and this is no fault of hers, I would be so miserable if we had stayed together. Because it was just like one of those things where like we both were religious, and we were like, we need to do this, and we need to start. Like she like dated a guy like the day after I broke up with her, and she's got like 2 kids now, and I'm just like, oh, so you just wanted a family. Like it didn't matter with who. Like
I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, like the amount of like things that we did, like the gymnastics of it all. If we could, you imagine like being in your 30s and having sex with your girlfriend and then punching yourself in the nuts again, like you said that you did?
Would be like the cringiest motherfucking thing. No way in hell, dude.
It'd be awful. It would be awful. Like, why would you do that? So here's my last question, and it kind of piggybacks off of that question.
Cool.
And that is, what would that kid think of who you are now? So essentially,
that's so good.
So essentially, how basically what I mean is, like, you know, because you were talking about how you don't give yourself enough credit, I would like for you to give yourself credit right now by answering that.
I actually, that's great. And I thought about this a while ago, but it's good to think about it again. If I'm trying to think of when I first started like really, really getting into comedy. And it was probably around like, I mean, I always loved like Robin Williams, Steve Martin, like those dudes growing up. But like when I really like thought about comedy as like oh, this is something you can do, I was probably like 13 or 14. It was around like, you know, the Dane Cook era.
When you saw Mike Warnke, obviously, is you were like, I got to do comedy.
Now that's art. Yeah.
That's a Christian comedian for all the people that don't know who I'm talking about.
For the uninitiated. Yeah, dude, I think kid me, 14-year-old me, he would definitely be like, oh, you live in a house and go to bed at like 11? Like, what the hell? And it's like, oh, you don't play video games anymore? Yeah. He'd be like, that's lame. But I think if he came into my office and he's like, wait, you have all these fucking toys and swords and Legos? And it's like, and then it'd be like, oh, and you had like a #1 comedy album and you make money doing comedy. And it's like, and it's not your full-time job, but also it's like you have a wife who loves you and like, you know, like friends, and like it's really not that bad. Like everything's kind of working out, you know? I think that kid he'd probably think I'm lame because every, you know, kid thinks old people are lame. But in terms of like things that they've done, they would be like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. I mean, in fact, it's one of the reasons why I like to ask those questions at the end is just
that's great. I love it.
Thanks, man. Well, one of the reasons why I do it is just because, like, I, especially during the pandemic, realized that there are so many naysayers in this world, especially in the entertainment business. And you always forget the magic as to why you started doing what you're doing.
Yeah, because that's so good. This put me in the best mood ever. Thank you, man.
Because you're always like, you know, you're it's like what you were saying, where it's just like, it's on to the next thing. Like, this theater isn't enough. Now I got to do an arena. And it's like, no, man, like, let's just sit back for a second.
Yeah.
And let's just realize, like, there was a moment in my life when I was begging people to come to my shows.
Yeah.
And now people are coming to my shows off of one Instagram post or whatever,
or like, because they want to. It's just
because they want to. Exactly.
That was the crazy thing for me, and I think because I don't know if you've put out an album or anything, but like I'm gonna kind of pull the sheet off the table of comedy, but it's like to get a #1 album on iTunes, you really only need to sell like 30, like or like leading up to it. So it's like not that much. Like, can you get like your friends and acquaintances to spend $10 on you? But it was when I got first, I was like, cool. But then it stayed there for like, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. And I was like, oh shit, like people are buying this. And like, actually, like who aren't I was having random ass people message me on Instagram and Facebook where they're like, yo, I just listened. This is so funny, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, that meant so much to me. That was so cool. And it's like you said, it's really, really, especially in comedy, it's so easy to just, it's an ever moving goalpost. A buddy of mine, Brent Blakeney, very funny comic out of Nashville. He had a funny joke post-COVID where he was like, comedy is the only profession where one day you'll go to work and you'll get the corner office and you're the CEO and you feel like the biggest guy in the company. And then the next day you're working inside the dumpster and they're actually like, we don't know who the fuck you are. You have to stay outside. And it's just like, that's so smart. Cause like, even the album came out and me and my best friend Jordan Huggins, who I do comedy with, we booked a ton of shows. We headlined the Garage in St. Louis, which is a small room, but it was so cool that we even got to that point where it's like, oh, I can go do clubs. And we did like I got to headline Dead Crow in Wilmington, which is like one of my favorite rooms. And not only did I headline it, like we almost sold 100 tickets. So to go back to your thing where it's like, oh, people are actively, because like, normally it's like, oh, you get 20 of your friends to come to a show. That's cool. But when people are showing up and they don't know you, I told Amy, who's the manager and booker at Dead Crow, afterwards, I was like, nothing felt better than headlining that club and people leaving happy, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just so great. And then literally like the last few weeks, I haven't been actively booking shows, and I've been doing open mics, and it's just like, it's so funny. Like right afterwards, I almost considered not quitting, but just like taking some serious time off, because I was like, oh, I guess there really isn't a place for me in comedy. And, you know, I had my fun run, I got the album out, but maybe I don't need to do this anymore. And then I was like, no, dude, it's just fucking ebbs and flows. That's just how comedy is.
Yeah. Well, that's how life is, just in general. Yeah. Like, you know, it's, there's a great Gable Price and Friends lyric where he says, why does there have to be an upside?
Yeah.
Where it's just, great. It's such a great lyric, because it's just like, you know, we care so much about like where the good is, but like the good comes with bad. You know, like that's
100%, dude.
You know, like that's why it's good, because we remember when it was bad. You know, so but yeah, I mean I mean, I completely agree with everything that you were saying. I mean, it's a great thing, and I can't wait, you know, hopefully to do shows with you later on.
That'd be so much fun, man. Yeah.
We can do festivals together and things like that. That would be super fun.
I would love that, dude.
But yeah, man, let's let all the besties, if you will, know
that's fun.
Where they can find you online.
Yeah. Hey, besties. If you've been listening to this and you are like, hey, I like that guy, I want to follow him. Mostly it's Instagram, and I am at Spencer Spicy on there. So Spencer, SPENCER, Spicy, SPICY. And that is because my last name is Bland. And in high school, a friend of mine was like, you're not boring, so I don't want to call you Bland. I'm going to call you Spicy.
That's awesome.
And that was my first ever Twitter handle. And then same thing on TikTok, Spencer Spicy, but with 2 Y's. And that's because I made the original Spencer Spicy and had a mental breakdown and deleted it. And TikTok won't let me get it back. So I'm Spencer Spicy with 2 Y's on there. And those are the really only 2 things I post on. I have a website, and it just has a funny URL. It's godsfavoritecomedian.com. But nice. I haven't updated it in a while. And also, who the fuck goes to websites these days? I mostly have it.
Didn't you also have IamBadAtComedy.com?
It's the same. They both lead to the same website. Yeah. I made I Am Bad at Comedy, and then a booker was like, "You shouldn't send that to people." Because people who don't know me are like, "Why is that his URL?" So I changed it to God's Favorite Comedian, and that's actually a spoof. I really love professional wrestling. And there's a wrestler. He was Rusev in WWE. He's now Miro, because his real name is Miroslav. He's Belarusian, and he did this awesome gimmick for a while where he called himself the Redeemer, and he was this like very religious zealot kind of thing, and he called himself God's favorite wrestler, and I thought that was so funny.
That is really funny.
I looked it up one night and I was like, God's Favorite Comedian is available, so I bought it.
I love it. Yeah. So godsfavoritecomedian.com. If you're in the Raleigh area, go to Spencer Bland's shows.
Please.
And watch him work out some new stuff, you know. That's the fun stuff, man, is getting to watch people work out. At least being a comedian, that's the most fun part of it.
I totally agree, man. I did a show, it's probably about a month ago now, but it was in Chapel Hill, so where UNC is, for people who would know that, where Michael Jordan played. And it's a tough town to work, because I'm very liberal, I want to say, because what I'm about to say might make me sound Republican, but it's a very liberal town, and things, and it's also college and liberal. It's really hard to get away with like a lot of things. And I say get away with, I just mean you have to be a little more thoughtful with your words.
Yeah.
And I did the show. I did my opening joke. It did well. And then I stopped and I was like, look, I had an album come out. I can do the jokes off this album and it's going to be great. You guys are going to have a fun time. You're going to leave happy. I was like, or I can do brand new stuff. I'll land the plane with some big jokes, but I'll do brand new stuff and you guys can feel like you get a unique experience. And they were like, fuck yeah, give us that. And it was, honestly, such a fun show. I'm really bummed because I didn't record it, but I had such a fun time. And I wish I did, because I had some fun tags that I can't remember. But that's nothing's better than just like having a crowd that's down. And it's like if you tell them up top, you're like, hey, it might not be good, but at least it's something different, and you can say you had a different experience.
Yeah. That's such a great way to put it, man.
Yeah, man.
So real quick for me, if you want to follow me on Instagram and you haven't, my Instagram is at Mike Valdes.
Yeah.
My TikTok is at official Mike Valdes, and you can go to thekidfromup.com for everything else. That's where all my dates are. That's where my merch is, all of that stuff. And subscribe, tell your friends so they can be part of the family. And thanks so much for listening, and I hope you have a great week, and also do not lose your sense of childlike wonder. Bye, besties!